Many Kenyans are yet to forget the horrifying saga of Albert Ojwang, the teacher and also the activist, and the very unfortunate events that led to his death, actually murder. Now we know there is nothing new under the sun. Oh yes, and actually there is something that happened during the reign of Kenya's second president, Daniel Toroitich arap Moi, that is very similar to this Albert Ojwang manenos. But then the difference was, the government of Moi had something that this government does not have, and they were able to deal with the situation in a very smooth, efficient, and effective way. What exactly did they do? Welcome to my show today, where you'll find out that and much more. I believe we have all agreed that analysis starts by understanding. Understanding what is before you, understanding very well what it is you're dealing with. And then it is very easy to break it down and even predict this is what's going to happen. Because you have done this, this is what will happen, etc., etc. And on my show today, you have an excellent opportunity of being able to do your own analysis based on this very latest development that has taken place over the Ojwang murder. Indeed, it is very sad. Indeed, the mainstream media have taken it up and are constantly reminding us, which is good, because justice must be done and justice must be seen to be done. Extremely important for any stable nation of the world. This is your host as usual, Chris Karaoke Kumekucha. And just before we go to it, a very brief message and then we'll go right into it. Karibuni sana and enjoy yourselves totally. I just want to take this opportunity to remind you that many people have benefited greatly from sponsoring a video on this channel, especially those who have a plot or some property somewhere that they want to sell. Most of them have gotten an absolutely amazing response on this channel. But even people selling products and services have gotten excellent results. It would seem that we have a very unique, captive audience on this channel that may be very difficult to find anywhere else, all in one place. So I want to remind you to take full advantage of that. It can cost you as much as 19K or as little as 8,500 Kenya shillings. Use that email address you see on your screens right now. Shoot me a quick email and I will give you the details. It is also a very good way of supporting this channel and what we do here. I believe you'll agree with me that it is extremely disheartening that to date, up to this very minute, the person who was responsible for setting in motion the chain of events that led to the murder of Albert Ojwang, a teacher and an activist, that person is yet to record a statement. And if you don't agree with me, if you say he recorded a statement, please give me more information. He recorded the statement where? Who took his statement? Please educate me. Because one thing we have all missed is that in the police there is hierarchy. This is a senior police officer who recorded the statement. Because all the people who do that kind of work are below his rank. But the main issue here is that nothing has happened to him. He has not answered before any court of law. He has not explained himself to the public, let alone to the family of the late Albert Ojwang. Nothing has happened. In other words, it is now very clear that Bwana Eliud Lagat is untouchable. You cannot touch him. Now, I don't know if you're aware of the fact that that makes it very unfair for anybody to even attempt to arrest a chicken thief. It is very unfair, because the law is supposed to treat all of us equally. All of us, without exception. And so, you don't take this statement, you don't follow up. But then you're so keen to prosecute a chicken thief. Doesn't make sense. Indeed, which is the bigger crime? Somebody losing their lives or a chicken being stolen? But I want us to focus today on identifying a common thread so that we understand. You will remember in a previous video, we dealt with being able to tell whether something is real or not, which of course goes a long way in understanding and analyzing anything. So today, I want us to look at something else that is a very common thread, and I believe is the core of the problem in our leadership in Kenya today. And when we finish interrogating this, we'll be able to understand why the way the government has handled the Eliud Lagat manenos is a fatal, very fatal mistake they have made that will not fail to come back to haunt them. Okay? It will not fail to come back to haunt them. No way. They cannot escape it. Okay? When we learn what this thing is. And that thing is emotional intelligence. Now, this is something which is very new in psychology. In fact, it was popularized in the 90s when somebody wrote a best-selling book. And people started studying it. And people learned even more and understood more about leaders in the past, like Adolf Hitler, etc., etc. And although it is new, it neatly explains a lot of things that are happening in the nation called Kenya. And for those who may want to brush this aside, as stories are jabba za Kumekucha, let me quote Governor George Natembeya, who some weeks back was quoted as saying that those people who surround President Ruto lack emotional intelligence. What is emotional intelligence? And more importantly, why has it finished Kenyans? Okay, do you know not all our past presidents have had it? Jomo Kenyatta, the founding father, had it. Daniel Toroitich arap Moi had plenty of it. Emilio Stanley Mwai Kibaki did not have it. Okay, Uhuru Kenyatta had it. And in my opinion, the current president does not have it. Now let us be very clear. Emotional intelligence has got nothing to do with somebody being smart or not being smart or being a dunderhead. No! In fact, extremely intelligent people are bound not to have emotional intelligence. A very good example is the father of the smartphone, in my opinion, Bwana Steve Jobs. Now, of course, Steve Jobs had this extraordinary ability to understand and to know what people may want, and to create that thing in advance so that when people saw it, they immediately wanted it, just as he had predicted. The world's first personal computer, the iPad, the iPhone, etc., etc. However, this genius of a man had problems relating to members of his own family. He had major problems communicating and relating, even to employees, in many instances. Adolf Hitler did not get into that position of being leader of all Germany by not being smart. He was extremely smart, but he completely lacked emotional intelligence. Friends, this is the thing which is finishing Kenya kabisa. Because without emotional intelligence, in my opinion, it is impossible to lead successfully. Impossible. Can't work. Will never work. Has never worked. And in a minute, we will look at why this Eliud Lagat lack of emotional intelligence in handling this situation is going to finish the Ruto regime. Kabisa. They're happy now. I'm sure they're bragging. What will they do? What can they do? Etc., etc. But it will finish them. Mark my words. But first, emotional intelligence is the ability of being able to understand your own emotions, control them, handle them, and also the ability of dealing with others while totally understanding what their emotions are and how they're going to react if you do 1, 2, 3 as opposed to 5, 6, 7. Okay? Now, Kenya's second president, Daniel Toroitich arap Moi, did not go to school much. Yeah? And some people still believe he was not very smart. Okay? That's their opinion. It's not mine. Okay? I believe he was a very smart guy. Okay? However, it cannot be denied that Moi had emotional intelligence. After the brutal murder of the then Foreign Affairs Minister, Dr. John Robert Ouko, and after the revelations via a newspaper in Uganda, of course a leak from our own intelligence community, I covered that in one of my videos, we reached a point where Kenyans knew that Ouko's cabinet colleague, Nicholas Biwott, had something to do with his murder. And another man called Hezekiah Oyugi, who was a permanent secretary in the office of the president, those two definitely had something to do with the gruesome, brutal murder of Ouko. Kenyans knew that, and their anger was rising. What did Moi do? We've covered this in a previous video. Biwott and Oyugi were arrested. Where have you heard of a powerful cabinet minister being arrested? You umesikia wapi? He was arrested together with PS Hezekiah Oyugi. At least that is what Kenyans were led to believe. Emotional intelligence. And because Kenyans believe this, their anger cooled down considerably. Biwott has been arrested. This is very good. Excellent. I told you Moi would do something about it. Etc., etc. Well, today we know they were not actually arrested. They were relaxing somewhere. GSU headquarters, having cups of coffee and maybe stronger drinks and relaxing. But the objective was met. Kenyans' anger cooled down. Hasira ya Wakenya ilipoeshwa vile unapoesha moto na maji baridi. Days later, I believe about 2 weeks later, we were told that the investigative organs in the country were not able to find any evidence against Biwott or Oyugi, and therefore they had been released. By that time, tempers had cooled, and Kenyans were still enjoying the imagination in their heads of Biwott in some filthy police cell somewhere. Yeah, that had cooled down Kenyans and their hasira considerably. Fast forward to the present. Because of a total lack of emotional intelligence, the things which are happening are mind-boggling. Somebody's coming out and speaking with a lot of kiburi, with a lot of pride. The courts do not have any power to prosecute me. Hawana? Nani aliwapatia power to prosecute me? They don't have power to prosecute me. Now, while that may be true, it is not what you say. It is how you say it and where you have said it. Isn't that wisdom? But even more important is what you're actually doing. Because what you're doing is that there's a fire already going, and you have gone and purchased some petrol, and you're busy pouring it into that fire. You want that fire to burn longer and hotter. You want that fire to grow bigger. That is exactly what you're doing. And even as the game of musical chairs continues in government, over the possible questioning or recording of a statement, allegedly, by DIG Lagat, even that game is pouring petrol on a fire that is already burning. That is exactly what is happening. And all this is happening because very clearly the Ruto regime has zero emotional intelligence. And you see, politics is about emotions, and especially the emotions of the voters. Okay? And so you're ignoring the emotions of the voters, but you're busy dishing out money. Empowerment program here and there, give people money here and there, get Harambee Stars to win so that it brings the country together, under you of course, under your leadership, etc., etc. You're doing all these other many things, but you've not dealt with the emotions of the people. It is very much like a man who has a wife, and he has cheated on his wife, and he is very busy showering her with gifts, a brand new car, a brand new yellow sports car, etc., etc. But he has not dealt with her emotions. Hajasahau, she is waiting for that day when she will be able to execute her revenge. And I assure you, when your dear wife revenges on you, utalia. That is guaranteed. Utalia na ulie mpaka machozi ishe. You will be so angry that your head will be burning with a real fire. But the revenge will have been executed because emotional intelligence. Now, very quickly before I go, this is the absolute last call for my classic series, Mboya. It was more than an assassination, which will help many of us clearly understand what happened then, but even understand what is happening now. Because, by the way, one of the things Mboya had going for him, he had amazing emotional intelligence. Now you can get hold of this classic series I did in an amazing package that includes the ebook that reveals how Mutula Kilonzo Sr. was murdered, and it also has 2 other highly sensitive special reports, and it also has a collection of videos linked to that ebook of how Mutula Sr. was finished. You can get all that for only Kenya shillings 1999. You can see the details on your screens right now. Use our usual telephone number for M-Pesa, and you'll have this super fascinating information that I'm sure will go a long way in sharpening your skills. Until next time, this is Chris Kumekucha.